can do all the jobs. All right, can you guys hear me online okay?
I can hear you fine.
Excellent. Okay, so I just want to kind of go over upcoming events first. Welcome to the August meeting of the Office 365 user group. We have like almost 30 people register, but to be fair, we've got like, what, 12 online? So, so yeah, we're about half and half this month, which is kind of interesting. I've been watching the participation of the online versus the in-person. It's interesting to me. So this month, like most months, we have a lot going on, so I had to pick out stuff that I thought would be the most relevant to people that are coming to this user group meeting. Next month, our user group meeting is on September 9th. Quite frankly, I've been crazy busy for the last couple weeks, and people have been submitting presentation topics, and I just haven't had time to actually secure one and get it finalized. There will be one, just not sure which one yet. If you guys have a preference on what you'd like to hear about, I would love to hear opinions. That way I can make sure and get you guys what you're wanting. So either tell me after, email me, whatever, just kind of let me know what you're interested in, and I'll try to make sure I get the right topic in here, okay? But that'll be next month, same time, same place, on Monday, September 9th. Power BI user group is actually tomorrow night. I put the wrong date on there, sorry. It's the 13th, today's the 12th, right? So it's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And the guy that's speaking is actually a SQL MVP, and he's going to be talking about data, so it's going to be really good. So if you guys want to come to that, it's just in the evening at Century Training tomorrow night. I looked up the Lawrence SharePoint user group. We just did that last week, right? Last Thursday. But I know they're switching to quarterly soon. So if you want information about that, you can just look at his website. I didn't have any specific details to put up there for next month. What we do have instead is we have this as an Office 365 user group, which is primarily focused on business end type stuff, a little tiny bit of technical, but primarily business user and power user. In addition, we've had a lot of requests for dev content. So we are actually going to start another group. I think they've met like once, maybe twice. But the SharePoint dev user group is going to meet at Centric on the second Wednesday of the month. So the Monday will be Office 365, the Tuesday is Power BI, and the Wednesday is SharePoint Dev. Not saying you have to go to all of them, I'm just saying they're there. So it's going to be like Microsoft Week in Kansas City. I don't know.
So that's tonight?
Wednesday night. Did I put the wrong date on there? I'm sorry, guys. I told you I did this fast. It is Wednesday night. I'll update the dates when I send it out, I promise. So user group is Monday, Power BI is tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and the SharePoint dev group is Wednesday. And I'm actually speaking on, I'm going to go over classic versus modern in terms of development. So like how that impacts the developers from what they can do on a classic page versus a modern page. So we're going to talk about that. And basically it's going to be a group discussion. So I'm going to give you guys some information about it, and then we're just going to talk about it. So if anybody's interested in that or knows any devs that are interested, feel free to join that. I personally know a lot of business users like the business analysis side, so I just went ahead and put the next KC IBA meeting up there. For those of you that are involved in process management or workflows or automation or anything like that, like that's a fantastic group to talk about and to go kind of see what they've got going on. This particular month is their annual meeting and election. So the reason I put it up there is if you're interested in getting involved at a level where you can be part of the board or you can support them or you can be on a committee, and you want to kind of know what's going on in the IBA world, this is a good meeting to go to. I can't go because I'm going to be out of town. But it's a great meeting if you want to get involved or you want to learn more about what's going on for that particular group. SQL Saturday is coming up on September 14th. So if you just Google it, you can register for it. It's free, just like SharePoint Saturday, but it's a whole day of SQL information, which used to not be such a big deal for this group, but it is now because we've got everything tying together in Power BI and charts and graphs, and you want to understand how your SQL is all set up. So I feel like the SQL Saturdays are going to start becoming more like the SharePoint Saturdays, where we're going to start seeing more business users who care, because now all of a sudden with charts and graphs and sending things out, your data matters a lot more. So SQL Saturday is September 14th. And the next two big things that I've got on my plate, I'm speaking at SP TechCon in Boston. If you guys want to go, you can still sign up. I forgot what my user code is. If you want a discount, if you decide you want to sign up and you want a discount, let me know. I can give you my user code, and I think you get like, what, 100, 200 bucks off? Yeah, 200 bucks off. And then last but not least, Every year we have our SharePoint Saturday, SharePoint Office 365 Saturday this year because it's a heck of a lot of Office 365. In fact, we have so many Teams presentations that were so good that I'm having an entire Teams track. So one whole track that's all devoted to Teams. And everybody wants to know what's going on with Teams because Skype is going away. So it's a fantastic time to come and really jump in and get your feet wet and learn about Teams. So that's in October.
And we're still looking for sponsors. If you have any to sponsor the events.
Yeah, if you know of anybody, any business level that wants to sponsor the event, we put this on for free every year. So essentially it's a conference nobody has to pay for. So if you guys want to get somebody like a corporation to be like, yeah, we'll donate to your cause, that'd be fantastic because otherwise we'd pay it all out of pocket. So if you know of any sponsors, it'd be great. The other thing that I forgot to put on here that I realized when I was driving is probably interesting to you. Over the next few weeks, there's a really weird lineup at Johnson County Community College. So I've been adjunct at Johnson County Community College for almost 6 years now. I randomly teach a class here and there now. Well, they have a whole new lineup of Office 365 classes, and I'm doing the first set. And then after that, it's going to roll over to another instructor. So this Wednesday is a public class on Teams. It's 9:30 to 3:30. If anybody's interested, it's super duper cheap. Because it's at the community college, so it's a great deal. So if you guys are interested in that, and if you look on there, I'm doing a Teams class, I'm doing a planner class in a couple of weeks, and then I'm doing, I think there's a SharePoint online class coming up in October. So if you look under my name, it'll show you all the Office 365 classes. So I thought you guys would be interested in that just because we're doing it anyway, so if you're interested. Okay, anybody know of anything else that I missed?
Power Apps Flow user group or systems for the next one. We've been exchanging emails this morning, trying to figure out a date and a topic. So if anyone wants to speak at that user group, let us know. We'll throw you into the topic file and give you a date.
Or if anybody wants information, let Jonathan know. He's on the committee, so he's got information. Anything else interesting? It's a ton of information. Like things are going crazy right now in the office world. Yes. Oh, if you haven't signed up or got a ticket, make sure you see Jonathan at some point.
Back here, sign-in sheets here.
There's also a lot of free swag in the back. So we've got water bottles, we got some shirts, there's some stickers, and then the tickets. I have 2 really nice inclusive keychains for Microsoft, and they're in Braille, so they're kind of neat. Which is what our giveaway is going to be today. So, so those are going to be our special things for the end of the session. All right. If anybody else thinks of anything, let me know. Otherwise, we have a fantastic speaker today, and he's going to talk about Yammer, which we're all super excited about. So take it away, John.
Okay, let me share my screen here real quick.
I should take
that out of the way, and should be good to go. I think it would show the Teams. There we go. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that okay. Hey, thanks for coming. Thanks for everybody joining on the phone. As Sharon said, my name is John, Senior Technology Architect at Cerner. So I'm one of the larger employers here in the Kansas City area, and I want to talk to you guys today about Yammer. Is there any users that you guys explored Yammer yet? Or you mostly have a team side? Okay, so about 50-50 have used Yammer, or at least aware of what Yammer is. We kind of have struggled with the where Yammer fits over the past year at Cerner. So as we've figured that out and figured out how to explain it to our associates, we figured that that's a good way to maybe explain it to others and help some of our fellow IT admins kind of navigate these waters in Office 365. So this is the first time I've ever done an About Me slide. A little bit about me. I've got 12 years of experience in end-user computing. All of that is at Cerner, so I came to Cerner straight out of college. And I started out in the luckiest spot at Cerner. I was the first Mac laptop user, so I got to figure out how to make a Mac best adapt and work in an enterprise environment. So I still am the Office 365 guy that carries around a Mac and does everything on Mac OS. And thank goodness for Office 365 because it finally works on a Mac the way that I would expect it to, which is great. From there, I moved into virtual desktop infrastructure. So I spent several years working on Citrix Zen Desktop and running our large Zen Desktop farm. And then that kind of led into Citrix ShareFile, which then led into OneDrive that replaced ShareFile at Cerner. And I've been Office 365 for a few years now. So I'm one of the main architects in Office 365. So we own everything from Teams to Yammer to OneDrive, Exchange Online, kind of holistically at a platform level and all of its capabilities. That's kind of what I'm responsible for. And then on the personal side, a couple of interests, things that I'm interested in, technology, of course. I probably couldn't do a decade of technology without being interested in gadgets myself. So really into drones and videography and a little bit of gaming, mostly Nintendo. I like to find old Nintendo consoles and take them apart and refurbish them and stuff like that. I'm really into like Game Boys. And then on the personal side, outside of technology, I would consider myself a maker. My wife and I, we own a wood shop called Fountain City Wood Shop. We make a lot of things using traditional woodworking methods as well as like CNC and 3D printing and stuff like that. So another place I can tinker around with gadgets and work on stuff, but do something with my hands, which is a nice break from work. So what is Yammer? Yammer's been around for several years. It started out as a startup out of San Francisco and then was eventually purchased by Microsoft. And for the first few years under Microsoft, they kind of were figuring out where they fit within the Microsoft suite. And it got mostly more confusing around the time the Teams came out, and they had to kind of carve out their own space. And to sum it up, Yammer at a macro level is the social network of Office 365. Microsoft explains this as an inner loop and an outer loop. Your outer loop, the people that you socialize with and collaborate with, but you don't necessarily know these people, that's where they fit in Yammer. Yammer is primarily discussion based, and the important thing, at least for Cerner, we have 30,000 associates, is that those discussions can be in groups of any size. So with a Microsoft team, you're limited. It used to be 2,500 people in a team, and now it's grown to 5,000 people can be in a team. Well, with Yammer, you can have those big public groups like parking. You know, more than 2,500 out of 30,000 people care about parking or care about security. So that's where Yammer fits. That's where people can come together and have large discussions in those large open groups. My group, Office 365 at Cerner, is one of the largest groups at Cerner. 3,000 members, where we talk about roadmap and what's been announced and what cool things are coming out with Office, answer people's questions, stuff like that. It's a place where people can find experts and tap into knowledge. So we have a long history of social networking at Cerner. We used to have Jive. We branded it as UCern. And with that, it was a social network. It was more like a forum type of a thing where you could get questions answered. And experts really kind of bubble up in an area like Yammer. And the great thing about Yammer for us is that they're not necessarily on the team that owns that. So I have a lot of people who've become champions in Office 365 that have grown up through the community by answering questions and providing insight from areas around the business where we don't have visibility. They're blind spots for IT. You know, we can partner with these people and they've become experts within the community. Microsoft has really leaned in this year to engaging with leadership through Yammer. They're really driving that with like live events and the idea of expanding leadership influence and things like that with Yammer. So it's a place where you can engage with leaders. The Q&A feature, the live events, they have things called Yam Jams where people can come together and kind of have a Ask Me Anything with the CEO or with the president of an organization within your company. You can ask them questions and you're on the same level, you know, and it's public, it's out there, transparent, things like that, which is really good for a leadership engagement perspective. And it's available everywhere. It's available on the web at yammer.com. You log in with your corporate credentials. And then it's available on iOS and Android as well. So you can take Yammer on the go, answer questions. You can even, with the newest feature, you can even go live from your phone and do a live stream video for like leadership engagement. If you're a vice president or something like that, you can whip out the Yammer app on your phone and, you know, share a thought with everybody on Yammer Live. And it's important to point out that this is a discussion-based platform, where Teams is more of a chat-based platform. So chatting versus discussion, they're very close. But with a discussion, we find that things are written out more formally. They're more thought through whenever people post on somewhere like Yammer because it's so much more broad. Where with Teams, it's more informal, so you're throwing a chat out there. So to talk about those modern conversations, there's 5 main types of conversations within Yammer. There used to be 4, but they've added questions as its own type of conversation. The typical way to start a conversation or start a thread within Yammer is to do an update. That's just a general new post, and then you can get people to like and reply to that and have a conversation. If you mark something as a question whenever you post it, that actually gives you the ability to mark a best answer. So if you're asking for something specific, somebody can mark that as an answer and it's pinned to the top. We'll show that in a slide here in the future. Announcements are another type of conversation. Those can only be done by a group owner. So not just anybody can make an announcement out there. It's an ownership privilege. And the difference between an update and an announcement basically is that an announcement will email everybody in the group to let them know that this is an announcement. This is from a place of authority. So that's why only owners can do it. They only have the power to email everybody with an announcement. Praise is really nice. We use that at Cerner quite a bit to give somebody an attaboy or a pat on the back. You actually search for people in the address list. You can tag them and then say what they did great. So it kind of brands it with like a thumbs up or a trophy, something like that. And you can kind of give somebody like an all company level, hey, this guy went out of his way. He did something beyond his job and saved the company $1 million, something like that. And then polls, those are a way to grab just quick like pulse of your community. So one of the ones we're doing right now is read receipts in Microsoft Teams. Those are a new feature that are coming that will show when someone has read your message. As IT admins, we don't know if we should leave that on or turn it off. So we actually just threw it out to the community and we're letting them vote on it right now. At the end of the month, whatever's winning, that's what we're going to set it in our tenant. So some ways to engage with your conversation, you can like and reply. One of my favorite things is cross-posting. It used to be with our Jive environment, you had to grab the link to that conversation and then paste it over in the other area. With Yammer, the share button is really great because you can click on it, type in another community, and it posts it as its own little box within that community. And importantly, it links back to the existing conversation. So if you already had a thread with a lot of replies on it, those don't get lost when you move them for somebody else's visibility. And then part of the fun part of Yammer is that GIFs and videos, things like that, if you paste a video link in, for example, like either it's for stream or from YouTube, it will actually render the video in place. So a lot of what we do with Office 365 is we post daily tip videos. Hey, did you know Outlook can do this? Did you know that you can mute somebody in Microsoft Teams? And we post those as videos, so as people go check their feed in the morning, they don't have to jump out to another place. They can watch it inside of Yammer. So the thing that we've struggled with the most at Cerner, and people have struggled with a lot the past year, is what to use when. Where does Teams fit with Yammer and SharePoint and all that? And Microsoft developed a graphic for what to use when. They call it the inner loop and outer loop. And I was talking to like some of the product people and I told them like they really stumbled because their graphic of inner and outer loop is a circle and a section of it is inner and a section of it is outer. And I was like, guys, like you didn't even do an inner and an outer circle. You put it all in the same circle. It made no sense. So we developed a graphic that was nice and clean that hopefully portrayed the message we were trying to get across. And feel free to take a picture and steal this and use it in your organization. Basically, we see it like a cross section of the Earth. And if you were to cut the Earth in half, that your most core work that you do, your individual files, your things as an individual contributor, is your OneDrive. This is private to me unless I choose to share it. So that's my most intimate files that I'm working on day in and day out. Once I move out and I'm ready to stop working by myself and work collaboratively, a lot of times for me, that's within the first 5 minutes. I'm ready to collaborate with someone. That's Microsoft Teams. So those are the people that I work with regularly. Generally, I know all of these people. Now you can have a 5,000 person Microsoft team right now, but that kind of gets a little bit hectic and crazy, and then you start needing moderation and all this other stuff. Your core team of a couple dozen people, that's about the sweet spot for the size of a Microsoft team from what we've found. And then Yammer, that's one layer out. That's the people that I work around or I share a common interest with. So whether it's we're all into Nintendo together and we talk about Nintendo, or we're all in a community of interest, we're all Linux admins. I may not know these people across the globe or across organizations, but we can come together in this Yammer group, provide our expertise in an open forum. So a lot of our Yammer groups tend to be larger in size. They tend to be hundreds or thousands of people. And then SharePoint, we kind of see that if you are using SharePoint by itself and not part of a team or a Yammer group, then we communicate that as a broadcast type platform. So SharePoint by itself is where our executives, like our top 5 executives, are blogging. That's where important Cerner news is being shared because it's a broadcast mechanism, and there are comments at the bottom of them, but you can control whether or not you want to get participation when you're using SharePoint. We have a class just on SharePoint that we teach at Cerner that's a good 4-hour class in the context of teams and talking about collaboration and lists and all of that. With the outermost loop of SharePoint, that's more like our news platform. And then we had to leave Cerner Wiki on there. We have a different non-Office 365 Wiki solution. So we wanted to communicate to our associates that Wiki is still there. That's where our governed, like FDA audited type of documentation lives as a healthcare organization. So we tell people, don't stop using Wiki. You have to use Wiki still. So a little bit about our journey at Cerner. If you guys aren't familiar with Cerner, it's the silver buildings that you see around campus that are always under construction. We have over 29,000 associates now. This is our 40th year, our 40th anniversary of Cerner's this year, and we've grown quite a bit. We're pushing right at that 30,000 mark. And the other really important thing to kind of provide context for what we're dealing with as IT admins is about 30,000 associates, and they're spread in over 35 countries. So we have people speaking different languages, people, you know, working around the clock, around the globe, in all kinds of different cultures and accessibility needs. So where we went from Jive to Yammer, this is just the results. If you want to hear more about like how we did our training or how we announced that Yammer was coming, stuff like that, reach out to me directly and we can provide like our class materials and stuff like that we've delivered in-house. I'm happy to provide all that, but we had a rich history of social collaboration within Jive, was what it was called, UCern. For 9 years, we got up to 99% of our associates were active and used to socially networking. Our classified listings was in Jive. People came together as kind of that virtual water cooler. Within a year of Yammer, with a lot of classes, a lot of education and promotion, we've already gotten 91% of our associates are active in Yammer after the first year. So they had a little bit of social networking under their belt, but they were really skeptical and apprehensive of jumping ship to another solution. We're happy that we've gotten 91%. And then a lot of people ask about, do we lock down our group creation? Do we must you ask for an Office 365 group? Do you need to get, approval for a Microsoft team? At Cerner, we have it wide open. Anybody can create a group. Anybody can create a Yammer group or a Microsoft team. And when we started, we had 13,000 groups. So most of those were Microsoft teams. Since then, a year later, we're over 20,000 groups. And we handle that with lifecycle management. So whenever those groups are no longer used, after a period of time, we start warning the owners and we start retiring those groups out whenever they're no longer needed. And we haven't gotten a whole lot of complaints about not being able to find things or I don't know where to go. Everybody's found their spot by and large. And then our migration timeline, this is just when we did it. About 6 to 8 months to actually roll this whole thing out. We announced it last August, so we're coming up on the year anniversary that we enabled everyone for Yammer. We announced that, we did a lot of promotion, a lot of swag giveaways, stuff like that. And we split our data into 2 different categories. We had a phase 1 and a phase 2. Phase 2 is all of our structured content. And whenever we started, the thought was from like our internal comms and everybody that this is our most important content. There must be a ton of it. But whenever we looked at structured versus unstructured, like classic cars or communities of interest, it was 95% unstructured and 5% was structured content. So those structured, we identified who they were, and we came alongside those owners and helped them move their content, helped them strategize how to use Yammer when they were used to using a forum-based to kind of this more Facebook style of collaboration, kind of helped them move into SharePoint, stuff like that. So we did all that September through October, and then in February, we actually turned off Jive. We made it read-only, so our associates could not use it anymore. And after all of the screaming and gnashing of teeth back in September, thousands of people upset that UCern was going away and we were moving the cheese. That day in February, when we turned it to read-only, we got one call to the help desk that whole day. We were in a war room thinking like everything was going to crash down, everybody was going to freak out. And we were sitting in the war room just hanging out, and one person called, asked what was going on when they were told, hey, check your inbox. You should have gotten like a ton of emails about this. They apologized and said, cancel, man, sorry, I should have known. And they left. So it was like a non-event, which was shocking for us. So, and again, if you want more information about how we did that, I'm happy to share any of that stuff. So what's new in Yammer? The Microsoft team, we went a year early. We went to Yammer last year, 2018, and this year, 2019, the Yammer team has dubbed it the year of Yammer. So there's a lot of features coming out. A lot of things have been announced over the past year, and it's all stuff that I wish was there a year ago because it would have made my life a lot easier. Things like rich text formatting, stuff like that should have been like day one features. They're finally getting around to it, finally rolling it out. But there's 5 main things to talk about that have been announced already. The first is Q&A. You guys who have used Yammer, have you seen Q&A yet in your tenants? So it's something that's still rolling out. Cerner's had it since, I believe, April or May. We got early access to it because, especially our developer community, they really were big in having answered questions. And from like an analytics perspective, that's really nice for us because we can know that communities are healthy because questions are actually being answered, they're being marked as answered. So we asked for this, we worked with the product team and got it a little bit earlier, but basically question shows up at the top right there as a new type of conversation, and it just marks it visually. But what's special about that is you can actually mark the best reply. So you'll get a ton of people coming in, adding their 2 cents, and either the person who posed the question or an owner of the group, those are the ones who can mark something as the best answer. So not just anybody can say, my answer is the best answer, it's authoritative, unless they own the group themselves. So the other thing with that is that the best answer is pinned to the top. And I'm hoping that in the future, maybe they'll add things like a recommended answer, or this was a helpful answer rather than the best answer. It'd be kind of nice if we could like rank some of those, because like maybe the best answer isn't the whole answer. Maybe you want to augment that a little bit. So we'll see if they have anything in the future for that. Second, this is like a day one feature. I can't believe that we went like, what, Jim, like 8 months without rich text formatting. So finally, there's rich text formatting in Yammer, and that allows you to make things bold, underlined, italicized. Thank goodness you can actually make text into links, because if you guys have ever pasted a SharePoint link in or something like that, you'll see that it goes multiple lines because it's so long. Now you can say, click here to see that Word document, and you can make here the link to the Word document. So that was a godsend for us. And it's available on updates and questions. So unfortunately, if you're making a poll or something like that, you can't use rich text formatting with that. One thing our users have asked for as well is the idea of like, if we could add a subject or something like this. This kind of augments that a little bit because you can make that first line bold to kind of get people's attention. But unfortunately, there's not a subject line on a Yammer post yet. And when we talked to the Yammer team, they're like, well, that's kind of less feed-like and having like a feed stream than like a forum, and it's a lot of our users kind of still coming around to the idea of like Yammer's not a forum where they're going to have a list of topics and you can just see a list of everything like a list serve. Those days are kind of past when it comes to Microsoft's world. Next is the Teams connector. So if you're living in a world like us where you have Teams and you have Yammer living together in perfect harmony, nobody ever's confused about what to use, you may end up in a situation where you are supporting something in Yammer. So you have a team. I've got, 7 or 8 guys on my team, and we support Office 365. And that's where we're working on the slide decks for Office 365. That's where we're talking about the NDA roadmap information with the product group. That we certainly don't want that exposed to everybody on our Yammer. So our Yammer community has 3,000 people in it, and we've connected those with the Teams connector. So this is new as of a couple months ago. You can actually go into Teams, and if you're one of those groups that is responsible for responding, responsible for answering those questions, you can connect it to Yammer by adding the app for Yammer. And that manifests itself in 2 ways. You can have a Yammer tab, so it'll put the tab right at the top of your channel so you can get to your group quickly. And then once you have that tab there, when you're browsing Yammer from within Teams, you'll notice this little arrow right here that says share to channel. That's really cool, especially as a manager or a team lead. You can say, this isn't getting answered, or oh, this person makes a good point. If you click share to channel, it will take that thread and it will add it to the conversation for that channel inside of Teams. So you can kind of pop that out and say, hey, let's sidebar about this for a while. Let's discuss what our answer is going to be. And then you can go take that and do the official answer in Yammer. So it's a way to get people's attention when maybe your team isn't engaging as much as you'd like them to, something like that. And then the other way that it manifests itself is as a Teams connector, which is helpful just kind of as an overall macro level. If you want to see how active your team is, you can set it up so that if a new thread is started, it will automatically post that thread to your Teams channel. You can be notified right away. Or you can set up a digest like we did. I set up a 24-hour digest. So it'll just say, here's a list of the new threads in the past day. Then I can kind of skim through that in the channel and decide which ones we want to answer, which ones we want the community to have an opportunity to answer. And I can just reply to that thread and ask people like, hey, Jim, what do you think about this? Hey, Joe, what do you think about that thread? And it's all outside of Yammer, but we're just aware of what's going on because it's connected to Microsoft Teams. And then another feature that we've been using a lot that is brand new as of a couple months ago, except the scheduling assistant there, they've announced it, and it's one of those things that's rolling out across tenants, but it's live events. A couple months ago, we had, his name was Andrew, is that right? That talked about Stream, and they were using Stream within their organization to do user training and do live events to kind of connect people across global time zones and things like that. With Yammer, you can do the same thing, and it's all powered by Microsoft Stream. But what's cool about hosting it in a Yammer group is that the live video will take over the Yammer group, and it will show at the top that it's like pinned as a live video while the event is going on. So say that you have like a town hall or something like that, you have a CEO connection group where you can ask the CEO questions, and the CEO wants to do an hour-long monthly video or something like that. He could make that a live event, and then that would just pin it to the top, and it would actually notify everybody on the middle that, hey, the CEO has gone live, or hey, John has gone live in the Office 365 group. Must be that he's going to announce something. So it'll notify people. They can tap it right from their phone. They can tap it in Yammer and watch that up at the top. And what's cool is it creates a thread for that particular live event. And what you can do is you can ask questions and add comments. So if people have questions, they can mark that as a question. And then the moderator, it's kind of too hard to see because it's like too small. It doesn't zoom. But just below there is a filter right where my cursor is right here. And you can actually filter by unanswered questions during the live event. So if you have like a moderator for the executive Q&A, they can watch just for unanswered questions and kind of filter out the stuff that somebody else answered if they're doing an AMA, for example. Whenever you move around to another place within Yammer, say you're having a corporate town hall and people kind of stop paying attention and they go check the classified listings or they go somewhere else in Yammer, it will take that video and move it to picture-in-picture down at the bottom corner. So the video keeps on playing even though they've gone somewhere else within the website. And then those videos, whenever they're done, they're automatically available in stream to everybody that was in that Yammer group already. And they can watch it back on demand immediately. So you don't have to wait for uploads or processing, anything like that. So just a quick call to action. If you aren't familiar with Microsoft Yammer, I've got a link here. I tried to shorten it beyond that, but as a user, this Yammer link is really helpful. There's a lot of like videos and how to get started, things like that, that are really helpful. Why recreate the wheel and make new videos? There's already something by Microsoft, especially because Microsoft updates this frequently as new features come out. That's one of the challenges in the Office 365 world, is trying to stay up, and your data, what you're telling your users is stale like 2 weeks later. Happens to us all the time. As admins, if you want to see how to configure or how to lock down certain aspects of Yammer, make sure that your users use their corporate credentials, meaning that if they no longer work for the company, they can no longer access Yammer. How to configure that is all in the IT Pro admin stuff. If you want like information about how we locked ours down, I'm happy to share what we've done to secure our Yammer environment. Our Yammer is available only to Cerner associates. So if you're no longer an associate, you no longer have access to Yammer, and it's for internal collaboration only.
Hey, John, I have a
Yeah.
couple questions.
Yeah, I was just ready to ask a question.
So the first question is, for project management needs, do you recommend Yammer or Teams?
For project management needs, I would say, I'll say it for the microphone since I'm up here. For project management needs, would you recommend Yammer or Microsoft Teams? What we have seen is primarily the team running the project and executing the project. They are best suited by Teams, because Teams is your hub for collaboration. It's where you bring all those tools together. And a lot of times project teams, they've got an issue tracking spreadsheet, or they've got a link to their Yammer community, or they've got a plan, something like that. All that comes with the team, and it can be added as tabs within channels. So we typically do that within Teams, and we have a PMO, a project management office, where they have a central team where all of the projects are run out of, and then they make teams for each of the individual projects that they're running, and then they link back to that major like team. So that one team has all of the SharePoint sites pinned to it, basically. So when they come together as a group and they do their high-level overview once a week, they can scroll through all the projects really quickly. But if I'm in the Teams migration project, I don't need to be knowing what's going on in like the wiki project. So it kind of keeps the project resources out of the muck of everything else, but gives them a high-level overview within Microsoft Teams. Generally, once your project goes live, it probably needs a support community, and that is usually when Yammer spins up at the end of the project.
So I've got a couple of clients who believe in that, but we found that Yammer is better for publishing information out, and even though there is the interaction, the Teams is better for the collaboration of the team project.
Yeah, usually like our work in progress is within Teams. And usually in a project, hopefully you have a go live or a launch time, otherwise it's not much of a project. So once you launch, that's when we launch the Yammer group, and we flood it with videos, we flood it with end user facing documentation, stuff like that. And then we keep all of the issues and all the, kind of bickering about like, I can't believe this guy's mad because he's always mad about everything. That's all in Teams, that's all private. So.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So another question is online. Did your organization consider Workplace by Facebook? I know they're similar, so curious as what other products were vetted before you chose Yammer.
So we didn't specifically look at Workplace by Facebook. The question was, what other solutions did we vet or did we look at before we made the jump to Yammer? The jump to Yammer was really started out of necessity because the Jive platform we were using is called JiveX. Over the past 2 years, Jive has been purchased and sold twice, and it's landed with a company who told us that they were no longer going to continue with that JiveX product, so we had to get off. In retrospect, I kind of wish we were a little bit more transparent with our users and let them know that because of a technology change, we had to get off because everybody understood that. Like, we pitched Yammer as entirely better than Jive, and isn't it great? And it's gonna make your life so much easier. We're a very large development organization of people who are way smarter than us. So they pointed out just how much smarter they were than us by having conversations and arguments about, is it better than that? And I really wish we had just kind of come out and said that, like, hey, we have to make this move. And for us at Cerner, it was the most logical move to Yammer because we were already so entrenched in Teams. We already are using OneDrive for all our file sync and share, already Change Online, obviously, things like that. So it was kind of a natural progression to get into Yammer and kind of build out that suite. Since then, we're currently making the jump from Skype to Teams. We're moving all 30,000 people in 6 weeks to Teams. That last migration happens Friday, the last group of people. So we're just going more into Office 365, and Yammer was kind of a great way to solidify that so that everything to come gets discussed inside of Yammer. So they're in the platform already. Yeah. Any other questions on online or yeah, people in the room? Yeah.
Do you know if the live event or live stream, does that record automatically?
It does. The question was about live events and does that record automatically? It does. So whether it's a Teams live event or a Yammer live event, it will record automatically. And in Teams, you can choose whether or not you make that available to your attendees, but it's always available to the producer and the presenters. With a Yammer live event, that is available to everybody in the group. And if you don't want that to happen, you have to go into stream and take that away from them. But it's automatically in stream, ready to go. It automatically does the facial recognition and the transcription for you. That all just happens. And I'm going to be doing a live event later on today that's a Teams meeting overview. We did one last week. We had over 500 people on it, and it was about an hour long. And the video was available immediately, so people started watching it immediately. And the transcription was there about 5 or 6 minutes later for an hour-long video. So we've been really impressed with live events so far.
I think can you have like 10,000 people?
Yeah, the limit is 10,000 people. Is their advertised limit. The other two limitations that kind of hang us up with our size is 10,000 attendees at a time, 4 hours in length. That is a hard limit.
It stops.
Yeah, it actually stops the stream at 4 hours and 1 second. My feedback, I tried to get it extended and it ran up the chain and I got told no in such a way that I think all the product managers got in trouble that told me yes. They said it's a hard limit at 4 hours. And my feedback to them was, I wish it was at least 5 because most of our town halls are 4 hours in length. That's a good half-day meeting. But you want to start 15 minutes early, right? Make sure it's working. You want to have a little bit of time for like questions always go long. And like 5 hours would be 90% of our use cases would be covered. So I don't know if they're going to do anything about it.
For anything that was going to be a 4 hour, we divided to two, like 2.5
Yeah.
hours.
And that was kind of their reply back was, we feel this is competitive in the marketplace and you should make 2 if you want to go all day. My reply back was, we're evaluating 4 other solutions. They all don't have a limit. So I don't know what you're talking about.
So is Yammer the same way though with these teams?
Yeah, whether it's a Teams live event or a Yammer live event, you got a 4 hour limit, a 10,000 person limit, and then the other one is a 15 live streams at a time. So you've got 15 that can happen at the same time for the tenant. And we haven't run out of that yet, but I think this month we will probably run into that because we have a lot of people running around doing like client demos and stuff like that. And they're choosing to do them as a live Teams event because they have more structure. They can control who can talk and stuff like that. So I think we're going to run out there, and I asked them about that extended as well and said no. So, yeah.
Are the limits based on the fact that they're both recording through stream, so it's a stream limit?
Yeah, it's a stream limit is what they've told us. Yeah, they had answers about like the 10,000 limit and told us like it's more of a soft limit, but when it comes to it, they said that's a capability of stream limit, and they were going to send that to the stream side of the house. Yeah, I mean, ideally we would like to have a couple days for our limit instead of 4 hours, because at Cerner we do hackathons, or you do like a big hackathon where everybody comes together for like 3 days and then presents at the end. we kind of want to leave that all open. And Microsoft actually wrote a blog post about live stream. They called it like following the clock or following the sun, where they did a 24-hour live stream. And I pointed out to him, I was like, well, how did you do it? You know, so they got special stuff for Microsoft IT.
It's in beta.
Yeah, preview.
Another online question.
Yeah.
So the next one is, do you use SharePoint as your intranet for static content or knowledge-based articles, or is everything within, or does all these tools evolve to be suite?
Yeah, so our intranet strategy has a little bit of pieces from different areas. So our base intranet has moved mostly to SharePoint now. So all of our news feeds and everything like that are fed in from SharePoint. So our executives are blogging in SharePoint. Our major announcements about like diversity and awards that Cerner's winning, things like that, those are written in SharePoint and they're called My Cerner News. The platform itself, though, I believe is still a custom web app and is moving towards SharePoint, but I think they had so much custom development to pull in from the wiki, to pull in things that searched across this third-party wiki solution as well as Office 365. Some of that development work is like heading towards the SharePoint side, and we may land all the way there. I don't really see a future where we aren't doing the wiki specifically. It's a Confluence wiki. I think we'll probably be in there for at least the foreseeable future because that's where like our FDA level audited documents are.
Do you embed Confluence in SharePoint or any other tools, or do you use Confluence separate?
There's a team right now. Confluence is completely separate. You know, people paste in links from SharePoint and back and forth. The team is looking at the connector for
Do you use
Confluence.
Confluence online or Confluence?
I believe it's Confluence on-prem because we do our own upgrades and things like that. So yeah, they're a team that sits directly above me in my building. I don't use Wiki a whole lot because I'm just drowning in Office 365 all the time.
So the next question is, which encoder do you use for live events?
Which encoder do I use? I use OBS for that. For our large corporate town halls where it's our CEO and it's 13,000 people watching live, those are usually vMix. We use a vMix software. But for accessibility, for just normal people, we use OBS for that. So there's a couple of questions in the room.
So if somebody at Cerner asks you, hey, we've got all these different tools, when should I use email? What guidance would you give them for when's the appropriate use of email versus using another tool?
Okay, so when should I use email versus jumping out to a modern collaboration experience, like Microsoft speak? My answer to that it's usually framed as is email going away? And I really don't think so. I think there's still a place for email. And email for us, a lot of business happens within email at Cerner, and I'm sure it's that way pretty much everywhere else. It's where our meetings are mostly scheduled, things like that.
You still use Outlook.
Yeah, we still use Outlook for everything. I'm hoping that there will soon be more integrations with Yammer and with Teams because people kind of want to use Outlook almost as their whole operating system. You know, if they could just run Outlook, they'd be pretty good. Email, email for us is more like direct. Like if you know who your recipients are, you usually use email if they're not in a team with you. If they're in a team, you're already working with them and it's kind of a stream of consciousness. You have an ongoing, persistent chat going. So I'll hit up my executive, hey, what do you think about this thing? Because we know each other. If it's a group from security and HR and internal comms, I'll usually spin up an email about that because I want like direct attention. You know, you certainly wouldn't do it in Yammer because it might be something that's not for other people's eyes. That usually goes into email. We're kind of seeing a lot of like the uses where it was going to be a DL. You're going to kind of blast an email out. A lot of stuff is moving more towards Yammer and Teams just because they want the replies in a way that people can mute them or not pay attention to them. You know, some DLs have like 3,000 people in it, and God forbid somebody hit reply all to those over and over again. Those comms teams that used to use DLs, a lot of times they're moving into Yammer now because the screaming from the community is like, please, like, let me not pay attention to this email.
Right. And as a follow-up to that, if you want to use Yammer as a way to sort of give an announcement to everyone.
Mhm.
Do you guys like have a way that you sort of ensure that everyone who needs to be, like everyone in this building is in this group and they're gonna get a notification?
So the question was, how do we ensure that people on Yammer pay attention to what we're doing or they're in the right place? With Cerner, we don't enforce that at all, actually. We're aware of dynamic AD groups. So you can have, in Azure AD, you can have what's called a dynamic group. So that if someone is in this reporting structure or they're in this location, based on some AD attribute, they'll be forced into this Office 365 group and therefore the subsequent Yammer group. So we could do that. We could force everybody at that campus to be in that group, but we haven't gotten there yet. I kind of imagine the first wave where we'll actually do something like that is if we move like a CEO connection or some kind of town hall group. If we actually spin that up, we'll probably force everybody, at least initially, to join that group. And then we'll probably just let them leave because we're just so large, it's kind of hard to herd everybody together. If it's a real big announcement, like we had an announcement 2 weeks ago, you might have seen on the news, a partnership with AWS or a foray into AWS in the cloud for healthcare. That was an all company email because that's like a, hey, everybody needs to know because reporters might call you type of a deal. So we do use email for that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Questions?
A couple of questions. I'm not sure what you're using for your document management system. You have any concerns about documents being uploaded or attached to Yammer, SharePoint, and Teams?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a separate document management system?
Yeah, so our official document management system for things that are change controlled document management is that Confluence wiki. So things are linked to a lot within Yammer. They're, hey, this is on the wiki, it's a controlled document. When it comes to other documentation that lands in Yammer or lands in SharePoint that shouldn't, there's DLP controls and things like Azure Information Protection, stuff like that. We recently went to Microsoft E5 licensing. So we're working through, we've always had Azure AIP or we've had rights management solutions for manually saying like this can't leave the SharePoint site. But with E5, now we have the capability to apply some intelligence to that, and we're excited to get into that as we get through this year. So
when you said you archive sites that are no longer active,
mm-hmm.
do you worry about any of the documents that were in that site? Do they have to be, does someone have to review them and say, yes, you can delete them all?
That is a fight that we are currently having with the project management office. We developed this this lifecycle management process where if a group is unused for 6 months, all the owners get a warning email at 5 months to say, hey, you're not using this, you need some activity. At 6 months, it is soft deleted, and then they have 30 days basically before it's really gone. Our project management office came back and were upset with us, saying that they have policies and procedures to keep everything for 10 years, must be kept for at least 10 years after the engagement. Our reply back to them was that we feel that that documentation, the deliverables from that project need to be over in the wiki. As part of closing out the project, you need to get it into the right system. They weren't okay with that, and we got legal involved, and legal is kind of coming down on the side of we want things to go away. Things need to have a retention that actually runs out for liability reasons, things like that. So right now we're watching those two groups fight. And I'm not sure who's winning because I think legal has the higher authority here, but really, realistically, things go into Wiki, and Wiki has a very strict retention and auditing policy. So as the project's done, it needs to go into Wiki to become officialized, basically. So it's kind of how we're handling it. It's in flight right now, and we've told the project management office to make sure that your stuff doesn't expire. So, because legal's saying, yeah, turn that lifecycle management back on. We want things to expire.
Yeah. So similar question about like when you're doing a call on Teams, and you have a chat. So like you do like a webinar and using Teams.
Yeah.
Do you know if that chat stays forever?
That persistent chat inside the meeting.
Yeah.
By default, yes, it's a persistent chat. You can get back to that chat and you can keep talking in it. Actually, the join link within a meeting we found just like a week or two ago, you can click on that join link for up to 14 days after the meeting is over and get back into that meeting and kind of have a follow-up meeting. And if it's a recurring meeting, that button is actually active for 1 year after the last person clicks it, if it's recurring. So that persistent chat, we use it a lot for action items, because a lot of times action items come out and then you always end up going back to email to say, hey, here's my document I said I was going to work on. We've culturally shifted more towards doing that in chat so that follow-up questions can be asked. And stuff
So
like
you
that.
can take an event, a webinar, whatever you're doing,
Mhm.
and then just change the date. So here we're going to reconvene in a couple of days.
Yeah, as long as it's within those 14 days, you can kind of have a follow-up meeting.
And the whole thing will
And
come with
yeah,
it.
the meeting notes are there as a tab, the whiteboard is there as well. All those tabs persist, and they're in your chat area with the name of the meeting, so you can get back to it. That does fall under retention periods though. So if you have a retention period on all chats for like 30 days, then yeah, that chat will definitely go away when that retention runs out as well. Currently though, that's another legal argument we're having, is how long to retain Teams chats for, and we haven't landed quite yet.
Also, another follow-up question too is if somebody gets let go, does all of their activity in Teams and Yammer stay available to everyone else? Not to them, they won't be able to go in.
You mean, oh, like just everything within when they leave the company?
Yeah, like if you left Cerner.
Yeah.
It's all yours.
So if I left Cerner, everything that I shared ownership with, so a team that I was a member of, even the team I was owning, that all lives beyond my time at Cerner. But everything in my OneDrive, everything in my Exchange Online, all of my posts on Yammer, stuff like that. The posts on Yammer, I think those actually do stay around, but the account's just not there anymore. But all of your email, your OneDrive, stuff like that, we have it currently set up to go away after 30 days. So the license is disabled, and then they have 30 days for their manager or somebody to come back, ask for that document or ask for that email. Oh no, we need this email really bad. We send it to the HR partner, so the HR can like provide a ruling of whether or not we can give that to the person, and then we give it if they say it's okay.
So to follow up on that one. So
Yeah.
the theory is that if you post it in the Yammer stream, that will persist after you've been disabled.
Yeah, and trying to think if there's the right to be forgotten is available yet or not. I know that's a feature that is coming with like GDPR support for Yammer, is the right to be forgotten. That's available in stream. As an admin, I can go in and I can search for a user and say, forget this person. And then every video they were in, every video they did is all vanished for GDPR reasons. I know that that's coming to Yammer. I don't think it's available quite yet. They announced like GDPR support, stuff like that. So that's a big thing in Europe, is like the right to be forgotten. So like,
Even if you're an
scrub
employee
me,
of a company, though?
yeah.
There's some third-party tools that have done that for a long time.
Yeah, there likely are. We unfortunately aren't augmented with any third-party stuff right now. We haven't gotten the funding.
That's it, that orbit user staying in there has been something they do with for a long time, so there's a lot of third-party tools that you can use for that exact reason, go clean it up.
Yeah.
Well, and if you have a retention, so the other thing for employees, this would be disposed of.
Yes.
For 60, 90 days after termination, except for their after work history, it would include all of those pieces.
Yeah, they would be subject to your retention policy as well. So all their chats would go away, things like that, if you have a retention policy. But if it's persistent, it's still searchable, at least from my side. I have several people that have left a couple months ago, and I can still find the chat that they sent me a while back. Thank goodness, because one guy sent me a link 6 months ago and then left the company. I had to go find that link, and I was able to find it in Teams.
And usually it's.
So, yeah, for the end user, not for the legal department. So.
What license, like, does E5 is good enough for Yammer?
Does E5 include Yammer?
Yeah.
Yeah, E5 includes Yammer. I believe any enterprise level includes Yammer, possibly any business level of Office 365. I'm not a super licensing expert because we landed E3 initially and then have moved to E5, so we kind of have everything except for the cool stuff in Flow with P1 and P2. So we're enjoying the E5 life with pretty much everything that we get.
E3 for sure.
Yeah, E3 definitely has it because we had E3 when we launched. I'm not sure if the like F1 or things like that include it. Probably not, because that's just frontline stuff.
I don't think the one model
my company strength is 1,000 members. Like I was configured Teams and I know it's in basic stage.
Yeah.
So I was wondering like how this could
I know that this link, the Learn More as an IT admin, the second one, that does have a licensing page, and it'll have a table that shows who gets what level.
E1 includes it, the pro level does not, and under E1.
Like Business Pro doesn't. Or something. Okay.
E1.
Yeah.
Can you show us like the classifieds that you have set up?
Classifieds? Yeah, they actually were in Yammer for a little while, and we moved them to our SharePoint. I'll show you just what it looks like though. And then we kind of squashed all those because we had a problem with like, we had a little bit of a problem with people like replying to it and being like, that's too much money, kind of hassling each other. And like, that's not cool. So we were happy when we moved from Jive to SharePoint. We were able to kind of lock this down. So it's actually a giant SharePoint list that then people can filter on. So if I like zoom in a little bit, you can see what people are selling. You can like click on it, and we can filter by like campus and price and all that type of stuff. And then we also have a lifecycle management on this as well. That's a Microsoft Flow. So every night it goes out and it finds everything that's over 90 days old, I believe, and deletes it off the SharePoint list and sends the owner a message that says, hey, your listing has expired, so that we kind of keep it clean, because we actually never cleaned up the Jive classified listings. And when we turned off Jive, it had something crazy like 25,000 old listings in it or something like that. So
Do you have the end user delete their own entry?
yeah, and they can mark it as sold, something like that. So the default view in this is it's only showing if it's available or pending. And then we created a couple more views here for all available items, but we also have sold items, kind of like the sold item filter on eBay. If you want to see how much something went for, I want to sell my phone, I want to see what it went for somewhere else, you can go to sold listings. And this is a really good one, the My Listings is filtered based off of, you know, your stuff, the stuff you created yourself. So we have a view for that, so you don't have to find your stuff. You can see there's a couple things that I sold. I just marked them as sold and leave them, and I let the Flow clean it up a few months later.
So if you do new item, your item image and attachment list.
Yeah, it's an attachment. So we've got just a plain, it's kind of embarrassing with like the Flow Power App guy here in the back. We want to replace this with a Power App and have a Power App form that comes up. But we kind of, when we launched with Yammer and said, hey, Cerner is going away, surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, the one thing that people freaked out about the most was losing classified ads. We don't like to admit it very much, but classified listings was actually the most used thing in all of Jive. All the business that was going on for 9 years, classified listings was what people used the most.
Well, and it's a great educational.
So
people will have time to figure it out.
yeah, and it was a great way to teach people about SharePoint lists and to teach them that the SharePoint app is available on the phone. And a lot of people have installed it so they could do classified listings, and it's great because now we've got them so that if we, you know, publish a CEO blog post or something like that, it alerts them on their phone because they're following the executive communications. So it was kind of a ninja way of getting SharePoint on their phone and getting more connected to like the news that was going on. So, yeah.
We have an online question.
Okay.
Any good docs on rolling out compliance policies for Yammer?
Rolling out what?
Is there any good docs or information on rolling out compliance policies?
Oh, good docs on rolling out compliance policies.
Resources.
Under that IT Pro link, there's likely some. We've had a fairly light hand with our like compliance policies and stuff like that. We have monitored keywords, obviously. We got a really fun list of naughty words from tech community. It's got like 700 words on it. And it finds things and it catches things that are like harassing or racist, something like that. And then the other compliance type thing that we have is we enforce the Office 365 identity, which also inadvertently, or we knew it was going to do this, it turns on that every Yammer group creates an Office 365 group. And actually we wanted that because we didn't want to have another step in the flow chart of what to use when that didn't include an Office 365 group. We wanted to let them know that if you create it here, you get Planner, you get SharePoint, because we want to encourage them to use login capabilities and stuff like that. So we force the identity mostly to prevent non-associates from coming in and still having access to Yammer. And then we only allow internal networks, so none of our users can create external networks. They can join external networks, but with an admin's approval. So if I join a Microsoft network, I approve myself because I'm an admin, but we get like a queue that comes in for external networks.
So can you remind us online if you didn't register? Make sure you do that so I have your information.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you haven't registered on Eventbrite, go ahead and do that on the Eventbrite side so that Sharon has your information and also so that she can share the slides with you. Sharon, I'm going to share the PowerPoint deck as well as I put it up on SlideShare if people like to see it there. We'll give
You
it to
get a
before
ticket, make sure you get a ticket. So he'll send me the slide deck, and if you know we for the Office 365 user group now, it's getting there, guys. It's getting there. But we do have a website out there, and on it we have all of the different sessions, and I'm trying to fancy it up a little bit, and if there is a deck, then we've linked to it. So all that stuff's out there, so you guys can go to it after the fact. So it's getting better. Everybody got a ticket, yes? Yes. Okay, John, writing up all the tickets.
and for the other swag in the back, if you want the water bottles, if it has an S on it, it's a SharePoint water bottle. If it doesn't have an S on it, I'm told it's a Teams bottle. So if you want SharePoint or Teams, and we've got all different sizes of t-shirts and stuff like that.
There's t-shirts, stickers, all kinds of fun stuff. So I brought, I don't know if you guys, how much you guys know, Microsoft's doing a lot of work in the community. They're doing a lot of kind of empowerment stuff. They're doing diversity and inclusion stuff. They've got a lot of great initiatives, really just to kind of be more open to people in general. And so they've got this Empower Every Person campaign that they're doing right now. So these are just keychains from Microsoft, but the really cool part is it's in Braille. So I think that's kind of neat, just to remind you that not everybody has all of the, faculties and gifts and physical abilities that you have. So it's just something to kind of remind you every day to make sure you're empowering everybody around you. So I got a couple of these. So basically whoever we call first can pick white or black, and the other one gets the other one.
And we got the ultra fancy shuffle them up on the table method going on. So the first one is ends with 2353. Right here.
Right, would you like white or black? White.
And the second one is 2357.
I just think it's
Yeah, that's really cool.
just remind you. All right, thank you guys for coming. Same second Monday next month. It's what, September 9th? Is it September 9th?
I think that sounds
At
fair.
11:30. If you guys need anything, make sure to email me afterwards and follow up. And thanks, John. That was fantastic.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Don't know if you said it. The box is with the S on it.
It's going. Yeah, thank you. No, I haven't done anything.